Amanda here from Lolli Lulu Crafts, and today we have the penultimate video for Lolli's Lodge storage solutions, and today's one is kind of miscellaneous. The bits that I've forgotten that should have gone in with something else, or the bits that just really didn't have any particular category that was worth doing a whole video on, and it was just kind of put them all together really. Now the first thing that you're looking at here is my twine, because I actually forgot to put that in with the ribbon video. Kind of obvious that that's where it needed to go, but I forgot. So what I've done here is I've got my shelf, and we've hung off it one of these baskets. I don't think IKEA call it a hanging basket. It was a very strange name, but anyway, I've actually put the link, as with most things on nearly all of these videos, I've got the links on my blog post because there simply isn't enough room on the paragraph below YouTube for these links. So all you need to do if you're on YouTube is open up the paragraph where it says show more. There's a link under the heading corresponding blog post. When you go on there, at the bottom under my signature is a whole heap of links. Now each video relating to a different storage solution, and obviously the introductory video, has its own blog post, and the reason that I did that was so that each video had its relevant links, so that there wasn't kind of one just big bundle of links that maybe was a bit confusing as to whether that was for the dies or whether it's for the stamps or whatever. So I thought it was simpler to do each one with its own post. So that said, this basket is in those links, so if you need to know what it is, just hop on over to there and you will find it. Okay, so getting on with the video. So I've got all these lovely twines, and behind them, because I had some twines that weren't these divine twine, which I love divine twine, I popped a box in. You've seen these boxes. I actually don't know what they are, I can't remember, but you can get plastic boxes very similar, and I've put all my smaller reels of twine in there, and then on top my binding tape. And to help me, because it came with like the same sort of as the sides here, although it had a little crisscross grid at the bottom, I actually cut a piece of card, like thick card, like board, and I put it in the bottom just so that I had a flat base, because otherwise these would constantly fall over. So I've got all of those in there. Aren't they pretty? I love this divine twine. If you can get this, you can get them on these big reels like this, or you can get them, I think usually they come in like a metre or 10 metres or whatever, I'm not quite sure, or maybe it's feet, but you can get them in sort of smaller, sort of not in reels, in like little packets on a piece of card. I think basically somebody on eBay's probably bought these and just split them up and wrap them round for you, but anyway, you can normally get them on the smaller packs as well, but they're really nice twine. Anyway, so that's the first thing. So then the next thing is in a bucket, so let's go over to there. So down the end here at the very corner where I've got my column of pink buckets, and where I've put that gorgeous pink sparkle paper on the front of my what sits there to keep it all in the theme, we have got some buckets that you haven't seen. So let me show you. You've seen the top one because that's my paper, but these bottom two. So in the bottom here is something that you might initially think is something you want to access all the time, and that's your glues. However, these are the spare glues, you know, kind of the ones that I'm not using all the time. They're literally, you know, you buy a pack of these tape pens in packs of 6s or 12s. So I've got a whole box, because whenever they're on sale on Crate and Craft, I get them, because what they do is you buy a pack of 6 and you get 6 for free. So I've got quite a few, and then in the bottom I've got glue sticks as well, so that's a really good box for that. I've showed you a box similar but in pink, and that's from Hobbycraft. So then I've got another one underneath that's got like all my foams and glue dots, etc. This is a smaller one with sort of wet glues, and then I've got spray glues, and then down the side here in one of those cropper hoppers actually that are for 12 by 12 papers, but I just had one that went in the side that I hadn't used, and I've got all my foam. If you recall, I buy the funky foam and I use it quite often when I use foam instead of 3D glue. I use this instead of the foam squares. Sometimes quite a lot of the time I use the foam tape, but I also use this. It's a really cheap option, but also it's a really cool option because you can get colours so it will match, and so you won't have like this white behind a nice piece of pink card or something. It kind of looks a little bit more effective. So that's just how I've done my glues and stuff in here. So then just at the back at the very bottom is like all my tapes and my refills for my ATG, etc., which I really must do. So that's all in there. So these boxes, again, they sit really well. You could, if you wanted to, have another one there. What I did was I had the 3 like that, and obviously you could put a 4th one there, it would fit. But what I wanted was space to put the spray glues, and I didn't want to put those into a box particularly because I wanted those to stand. And that's my ultra thick embossing powder, which isn't something I use very often, so that's there as well. And these are spray sparkles, Crafter's Companion. So again, don't use it that often because I have to be honest, I'm not that keen on the smell. So that's in that box. So then above it, because what I've done is the 2 boxes that are the most difficult to get to are in this corner. So I've put the things that you would think I maybe use a lot but actually don't. So in this next one up, I've got a bit more foam because I just ran out of space under there, but mostly I've got my Cricut stuff and my silhouette. So I've got all my mats and vinyl packs at the side here, my pens for the silhouette, my Cricut toolkit, vinyls and stuff on the rolls, more. So these are actually Cricut mats, etc. at the side. It's actually really easy to grab them when I need them. Now, you may recall me saying in a previous video about the fact that I like to pinch my mum's Chanel boxes because they're really handy for storage. So this is some Cricut projects that I'm working on, some my Mickey Mouse book, etc. So I haven't done any work on that for ages, but that's what's in there. And because I put that there because it was kind of Cricut stuff, I actually put another box underneath which I won't bother opening, but that's also got other sort of mini album type things in there. They're not necessarily Cricut, but it is those sorts of things because it kind of made sense, and I don't have a lot of that kind of thing, so it kind of worked just to pop it in there. And then I had a big pack of foam that was just, I just didn't have the space for it in the bottom one, so I just popped it in there because there was plenty of room. So that is those 2 buckets. Now the other day I showed you the paper and all the storage for that. The one thing I probably should have included in that video is where I store my cards and envelopes. So literally this entire turquoise column of buckets are my cards and envelopes. So just a quick peek. Let's just move Daisy out the way. So the first 2 are my cards, and I've used these boxes again that I used for some other paper bits that you saw, and these are the ones from Hobbycraft. I really like these, and you get an awful lot in here. This is 5 boxes deep into this, and so there's 5 of those with all different basic cards, card cuts, so it's all creams and whites, different sizes and shapes, but all of that. And then at the side here I've got the A5 boxes, so they're the same from Hobbycraft again, great plastic boxes. I think you could probably get those in all sorts of places. If you're in America somewhere like Michael's or whatever, probably have something similar. But as you can see when you look down just how many boxes you get in, and just by putting them in like this, and then you've got a little bit, the reason you could have put one A4 across and another one across there if you wanted, but the cards that I had was such that they fitted in these boxes, and I already had these boxes. These were sort of recycling for what I had. So that's the bottom one with the basic. The second one down is sort of patterns and colours card. So what I had here was a long box, and so, oh, there's Daisy and my feet, and I just put the cards, they're all the A6 ones, including some creams, and I just put those in like so, and I can literally just flick through and pick what I wanted, and it was just perfect. I have to say, I don't know what this was. It was just a box I had, and I made use of it. And then at the side here, again, another box that I had, and it's not ideal in that it doesn't really quite fit down the side, but it holds these longer cards here that I don't really want to fold. They're like shaped cards and stuff like that. And then underneath I've got a couple more of these boxes, just with some random shaped cards, etc. And then just loose at the end I've got my 8x8s there. Yeah. They didn't really fit anything and they slid down the back there just fine. And then literally you can just pop those in like that. You can see sort of most of what's there, because the ones underneath that you don't use as often. So that was that one. And then this third one up, these two, third and fourth one up, are envelopes. So this here is one of those pink boxes, but super large. I'm not going to pull it out because I've got cards at the side. There's nothing underneath it. I've literally just put that at the bottom, just so it holds them all nice and tidy, and if I wanted to I could lift it out. Then at the side here I've got some of those plastic wallets holding some of the larger envelopes and different sizes, and then behind those I've got my box envelopes. Now the last bucket has these amazing boxes in, and you know, I cannot remember where I got them from. I've had them for ages. I suspect they're a Cropper Hopper, and I suspect that they're just not made. I don't think Cropper Hopper even makes stuff anymore, but I suspect they've not been made for a while. But it's such a shame because they're a really good box. You've got this, you make it up, it came as a flat pack, and then you just take this lid off, unhook it, and then inside you can get so much. So I've got all my basic envelopes in here, and then I've got, so I had two laying on this side and that fitted in, and then just one standing up, and it's just perfect for, so I've got white, cream, and then kind of odds in that one. I like having the boxes inside this bucket because you can then pile up the boxes. You get quite a lot in each bucket, but it's still kind of organised, so it kind of works for me. So that is all my cards and envelopes. So then next door to that row of turquoise buckets where my cards and envelopes are these black row, a column even, it's not a row, row goes the other way. Okay, so the black column, and you may recall when we saw the embellishments videos that I have my flowers and my beads and gems, etc. in a couple of these. But then there's a third one here. So in it is more of these boxes, and inside that is things like my colour cloud, which I love. So I've got a couple of those different colours, and then I've got a box full of my texture paste. I'm not going into sort of showing you that specifically because we have done a haul video, so you would have seen most of that, and it wasn't that too long ago actually. Then underneath that I had an empty bucket, a box, and so I've put in there, I've had a spare texture paste and a large texture paste, and then also my sprays. So at the bottom there I've got some wallets with felt, but I'll move those in a second. At the back I've got one of these thin boxes that's got my gilding wax and some metal flakes. I had a large pot of metal flakes which didn't fit in, so I've just put that at the side. Then at the side here I've got a box with all my glues, coloured glues, and my pixie powders. And then we've got my jelly plate, which is left in its packaging. And then at the back I've got pastels and chalks, and I just put those in wallets because particularly chalks have a habit of kind of dusting over everything. Then at the bottom, as I said, I've got some felt, so just different which I put in these wallets, these popper pouches. I love those popper pouches, so useful. Then at the bottom I've got some metal alphabet things and my palette and just some random metal elements and other metal bits here as well. So again, pretty full, but actually not difficult to get to anything, and that's the kind of the plan with this stuff. There's no point having these buckets and then only half filling them. You want to fill them up as long as you know where everything is, and by putting them in the boxes inside, it's pretty simple to get to everything. You just kind of rummage through the boxes and then it's pretty easy to put them back as well. Okay, so then the final area that we're going to look at for miscellaneous is the top 2 drawers, because if you recall when we did the embellishments we didn't get to look at these, and that's because it wasn't relevant to embellishments really, I didn't think. So in here I've got these 2 fabulous drawers, and inside of them I've put all my Nouveau drops glues, and behind that I've got my liquid pearls and stickles. So I think that works really well. You've got them in the drawers, so if you wanted to you could easily lift that out, and I just personally think it looks so pretty. And then the final one is in here. So what we've got in here, this time we've got the smaller drawers, so in that we can fit 3 of these very nicely into these Kallax drawers. So I've got 2 with my embossing powders, and then at the back, I don't know if you can just see, I've got my things like Glitter Kiss that I showed you on the haul video that I just did, and also my mica powder. So that's kind of and there's like mica flakes as well, so it's all kind of to do with that kind of thing, and so that's all there. And then just here I've got 2 spare of the Nouveaux in the black and the white, because there wasn't quite room down in that drawer before to put those in. So that is our final miscellaneous crafty element. So I hope you found it helpful to take a look at these items and how I store them. I think what it does show is that you don't always have to be 100% everything perfectly where it should be for it to work. Some of those things in the buckets weren't, you know, necessarily where was ideal, but it filled a hole, and they're not something that perhaps I use as often, so it didn't matter. And I think that's the thing that I learned really, was that I needed to be organised with the things that I really used a lot, to the point of craziness where I could access them. But the things that I didn't use so much, although I wanted them tidy and organised, they didn't have to be absolutely in the most perfect position. You know, like those large metal elements should perhaps have been with the smaller metal embellishments, but it didn't really matter because the bigger ones were not ones I used as much. So, you know, what the heck, let's fill the gap at the bottom with something that I don't use as much, and make space in the places that I do able to get to more easily with the things that I use more frequently. So I hope you found this helpful. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to click on the link for the blog post to go across, so that you can see all the links to the items that have been used for this storage video. And thank you so much for watching. Bye for now. Bye.